think the biggest thing for me is just continuing to make good decisions, and being able to, when I do let the ball rip, let it rip with confidence. I think that's been the biggest thing for me these past few weeks, and I'm just going to continue to do that.
Welcome to the Darnold's Dilemma edition of the Enough Said program. My name is Dan Barreiro, joined as always by Justin Gaard. And as always, as we approach the Christmas season, a very Christmassy Lori Fisher.
Red last week, green this week, maybe a little silver and gold next week.
You mix it nicely. Yeah, you're right.
There's a lot to celebrate now with the Vikings. They're 11-2. Quarterback Sam Darnold, who we just heard from, was named NFC Offensive Player of the Week. Their celebrations are on point, getting national attention, and they're getting ready for Dan's favorite, a winter whiteout that never gets old, at home Monday night against the Chicago Bears. Dan?
I kind of do like I think I like the Vikings whiteout uniforms.
They're clean.
I think they're pretty. They're
very
sleek.
clean.
They're very nice looking.
I couldn't wear them. I'd spill all over them.
Yeah,
I can't wear any white things.
That's it.
It doesn't work.
Well, and for everybody, I mean, if you're going to wear something that whitish, you're going to have to be sleek.
Yes.
Which of course the players are. That's the beauty of it.
Which I am not.
No, that
I
was.
understand. Yeah, that's fine.
I was not going down that road.
I don't take it personally.
I don't do that. I don't pick on other people, as you know. I mean, I pick on other people, but not about that. All right, let's get to it. So here's my stat for you that I had to do some math. So
we'll double check.
I'm not going to vouch for it.
Yeah.
The Vikings are playing the Bears on Monday night, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's going to wrap up a stretch of if they win, that'll be what, 7 in a row?
Yes.
And that will wrap up a stretch in which the combined records of the teams the Vikings have beaten is 28-50. I'm not telling you this to disparage what they've done, but I am here to tell you that then after that, the last 3 weeks of the season, we play teams with a combined record of 29-10.
It's a little different.
And I think we'll get a better read on whether this is a playoff-ready team, and maybe we also get a better read on the Darnold dilemma question, which as each week goes by and he plays as well as he continues to play, it's do we need to scrap the original plan, which was to say goodbye to Darnold at the end of the year.
No matter what.
Say thank you for all the help, but we're starting the clock on the kid. We like the rookie contract, etc. Because I do think the Vikings are going to have to start thinking about that if they haven't already. And yet, I will add, we'll get the true test, I think, of where this is going to go in the next month. You can even say starting with the Bears game, but certainly afterwards.
Yeah, we always want to jump ahead to steps 4, 5, and 6
right
before we even complete 1, 2, and 3. Now, this play right here that we're watching.
That's the play of the game.
Is insanity, right? And that is the
Cousins
difference.
doesn't make that play.
Exactly right.
Even before the injury.
No, before he tore his Achilles.
Right.
Incredible day for him. The last 3 games and then whatever's after that are going to tell the story. But I do have to tell you, I think the fact that we're even having this discussion and that it's gotten to this point is almost like a check mark in we have to bring him back because he just got here. He's improved with Kevin O'Connell so quickly. And he mentioned the right decision part at the top of the show. I think it'd be the right decision for him to do everything he can to stay here as well because this is the one coach in the one place that has truly unlocked everything that he does well, that has minimized the things that he doesn't. He had the bad 5-day stretch, right? When they lost to Detroit, and then he wasn't very good against L.A. Only 2 games the Vikings have lost this season. Other than that, he's been pretty good, and last week was just the cherry on top, a remarkable performance, a remarkable fourth quarter. And I know I'm always more middle ground than you, Dan, on a lot of things, but I think the middle ground here is the right play if you are going to think about continuing to keep Sam Darnold. I don't think you give him a 5-year contract.
No,
I don't even know if
not.
you give him a 3-year contract. I could live with it, but they do have the franchise tag available to them, and I don't think it would be doing wrong by Darnold as the organization that did unlock all of this to franchise him and give him the $41 million, whatever it's going to be, and then you have no pressure to get J.J. McCarthy back into it. This is obviously a team, especially if Flores stays, that has big-time aspirations. Are we really ready to hand it over to a kid that's never played one NFL snap a year from now?
If you're Darnold, do you really want to go to the places where they're going to be desperate for a quarterback, where the infrastructure that exists here is not in place? That's the hard question he's going to have to answer because he'll probably be able to get more money someplace else. The Vikings, though, have every right, in my opinion, to take that option away from him if they want, if he finishes strong, to say, nope, we're franchising you. By the way, you can also trade someone after you franchise him if it ends up getting that. But he's in play in a way that I never expected because you have to trust your eyes, and what you're seeing is a 27-year-old quarterback who seems to be figuring it out.
Awesome. The Wild are first in the Central Division and are at home tonight taking on the Oilers. Looking ahead, they're at home a lot this month, including a game on New Year's Eve, and the headlines continue to be about Kaprizov just rocking those records right now, Justin.
That's one of the headlines. The big headline right now, though, is that the injuries are piling up a little bit. I know they're supposed to get a couple of guys back, but they lose another player or two on Thursday night. Middleton now might be out for a while, and they just continue to pile up. The beauty of it, as we've talked about for 2 months, though, with the Wild is they're built better right now to withstand all of these injuries and this adversity that they might be going through right now. We'll see when some of these players come back. But because of the situation that they've played themselves into, atop the Western Conference as of a couple of days ago, had the most points in hockey. Points percentage is right there near the top. They have a little bit of a buffer where it doesn't have to fall off a cliff completely. And they get to play at home. This weekend is an interesting weekend. You've got Philly, who's okay, and Vegas, who's very good. And you can kind of wash away a complete meltdown against Edmonton last night on Thursday night, and you can make that an aberration by playing a little bit better this weekend, because I know some people are already wondering, oh no, could this be the sign of things to come with the injuries? Edmonton's good. They didn't play very well. Goaltending's gotten a little leaky here the last week. You can put all of that away by stabilizing yourself this weekend and beyond here at home, but they are in a good position regardless of how long these injuries take.
Do omens scare you?
Omens?
Russo passed along, Michael Russo, the Athletic, an
Yeah.
interesting omen. Today, Friday the 13th, is the 13th anniversary
Yeah.
of a 2011 Wild loss to Winnipeg, in which one of their best players, Pierre-Marc Bouchard, got cheap-shotted and injured. That sparked a bunch of injuries.
He sounded the
Triggered
alarm on this.
An 8-game losing streak for the team with, wait for it, had the best record in the league.
Yep.
The Wild have the best record in the league. They lose a key defenseman yesterday. Now, they call me, doom and gloom guy.
I thought that was really
Russo
alarmist.
really going panic on the bit. But you've already said it.
30.
In theory, this team is better equipped, starting with the fact that team in 2011 had nobody named Kaprizov.
There was no
right?
Kaprizov.
There was no
Nope.
Kaprizov that existed.
There was no Boldy.
You'd like to think you got, better goaltending on this occasion. But that team that year, and I guess I'd forgotten this, they missed the playoffs. They lost. Right. They won 15 of the remaining 52 games, which is a reminder that you can never take anything for granted, and you can't lose sight of how injuries can indeed pile up to a certain degree. I still like their chances to get out of this thing, but they are going to have to spruce up the penalty kill, which I think gave up 2 more goals and 4 chances yesterday. We don't take a lot of penalties, which is good, but the percentage of times the other team's scoring goals ain't going to work in the postseason, no matter how gaudy your regular season record is.
That
Everybody's
season
at
you
home.
just talked about, sorry, Lori, that season you just talked about led to the summer of Parisi and Suter.
That's true.
2012, which they're
July
still
4.
paying for.
I was just going to say everybody's at home. We got the Vikings at home on Monday. The Wild are at home. The Wolves are at home. They stay at home. They snapped, though, a 4-game winning streak, losing against the Warriors on Sunday. They play the Lakers tonight, and hopefully a few days of rest will help them get that groove back. With a funky holiday schedule this month, is it a good time to reset, Dan?
Well, the weird thing is, the rule of thumb is if you have back-to-back games against the same team at their place, it's likely that you're going to split. I still didn't like the loss, the second game, at all. As good as the first game finish was, they were in position to sweep the Golden State Warriors.
Would have been nice.
Who aren't what they were before. And it's the old, okay, they've had their time. It's okay to sweep them, even if everybody says, well, one out of 2, that's the way it generally works. They were ahead at the half. They were in position even in the fourth quarter to win the game, and finished very poorly, especially offensively. They went to hero ball. The issue defensively is we're seeing improvement. And to me, that's still where it has to start. We need to see sustained, commitment to the defensive bit, which, by the way, does mean not just at the start of possession.
Right.
It means at the end of the possession, and it means rebounding. Part of good defense, and people leave this out all the time, is good defensive rebounding, is it not?
It is.
If you give the other team extra chances, then your defense is not doing the job. That's part of what I think is still hurting this club at times.
It's called finishing the possession.
Yes.
And why wouldn't you want to be a good rebounding team? Who wants to defend a second or third time, which these good teams make you do? Will the defense and effort from the road trip carry over back here at home starting Friday night against the Lakers?
No LeBron for the Lakers.
No LeBron, but that's where it kind of began. This improved stretch of play began a couple of Monday nights ago when the Lakers were coming here off a back-to-back. Schedule loss for them. You took it to L.A. to handle the Clippers, obviously the first one against Golden State. The Golden State series was fascinating because Anthony Edwards was so good on Friday night. just surgical. Scoring, passing, defending, making every right decision, and he was a disaster on Sunday. You mentioned it. They had the lead. They were ahead 106-105 with just a couple of minutes to go. They had gotten themselves back into the game after being up big. So his consistency down the stretch of games is going to be a big thing because he does have the tendency, and I get why he does. He's the best player on the team to do the hero ball thing, but it's got to be a little bit more team-oriented, I think, at the end.
We're going to get to some serious news next, and then a little bit later, the holiday cards are coming in, and they are so much fun to read. Welcome back to Enough Said. We continue to get new information on the accused killer of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Luigi Mangione is fighting efforts to get extradited back to New York. The shooting happened on December 4th. Thompson was targeted outside a Manhattan hotel. The suspect was found at a McDonald's 5 days later in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Mangione faces charges including murder and possessing a ghost gun. Thompson's death has received so much polarizing attention, between the suspect being called a hero for those fighting insurance companies and even what he looks like. Dan?
Well, it starts with when this story broke. For those who wanted to turn him into a murderer, into a hero, they wanted to find out he was going to be sort of this Robin Hood-esque,
right,
non-privileged, anarchist, kind of a folk hero guy. And it turns out, as somebody put it, he's more a bourgeoisie crackpot is what he is. And look, the frustration, so we end up attaching whatever qualities we want given our feelings about the underlying story, which is understandable frustrations regarding the way the insurance industry works, right?
Yep.
But the more I read about this, and I'd love to get more good reporting being done on it that goes past the obvious, the folks I trust say the dirty little secret regarding all of this is it's far more complicated. And this might not just be about insurance outfits. It might be, wait for it, providers. It might be hospitals. That there are many tentacles to how expensive this is and how frustrated we are by it. And, there's the larger issue of in any situation when it comes to health insurance, somebody eventually does say no.
Right.
And in Britain, it might be that the no means you have to wait extra time, which also can be life-threatening. So if this were to lead to some significant, intelligent discussions about this whole industry, fine. But when Elizabeth Warren says, what was her quote? Violence is never the answer, but people can only be pushed so far. That's exactly the kind of answer that if Elizabeth Warren heard it from a hardcore righty on some other issue, she would say, how dare you? There is no but. And eventually she figured it out, and she did backpedal and back away. But that's the situation we're in. If the issue is big enough to you, well, we'll use the but. If not, how dare you? You are, to a large extent, almost inciting violence, and we're going to hold responsible for violence when it takes place.
And the main executive from United Healthcare, I think, just wrote an op-ed to your point about we want to be part of the solutions that people are thinking about here. And we understand that healthcare is not perfect. Think about all the different things in this country that are not perfect, healthcare being one of them, with providers, with doctors, with obviously the insurance companies. And you're 100% right. And that's what literally from that afternoon, once we learned about Brian Thompson's murder and what it might have been about, we've seen people gleeful. We've seen people joyful. We've seen people, defiant and rubbing it in. And it's doubly, triply, maybe quadruply disappointing when it are these politicians like Warren, like Bernie, who had to walk something back, AOC, same thing. If you're starting a sentence with, a qualifier and then a but, and trying to empathize with why this person did what he did, sorry, you just kind of lose me in this situation.
30.
Because we don't know exactly why he did it. We have some.
And that's the other key point.
We have some, I guess, inklings with some of his writings and his book reviews and things like that. But but again, it doesn't mean you just attach it to this and go, yeah, I see his point, and try to make him into something that he's not. This guy's a coward. He's just a straight up coward.
Final point, Dan.
Do you know, again, and this doesn't surprise me, who I thought released the right kind of statement afterwards? Amy Klobuchar. Amy Klobuchar had no but that I saw.
Right.
Now, if I'm corrected, email me, text me, let me know. But what she did is concentrate on the egregious nature of the violence. And look, are there questions about whether this United is being investigated, whether these he, as among other individuals, being investigated? We all want to follow those stories.
Right.
But the fact is, she, I think, is a good example of someone who you could say is in the mainstream, but I think tries to remain pure and true to herself to say, I'm not going to use those buts that even other people in my own party feel are emboldened to use. It's embarrassing.
Enough said. Former Yankees player Juan Soto signed the biggest deal in sports history with the Mets, 15 years, $765 million. I don't even know what you do with all that money. And of course, there's.
You know what you do.
You'd figure it out.
We know what you do.
Yeah.
You'd figure it out pretty
quickly.
quickly.
Go on vacation forever?
Yeah, you'd figure it out.
I think you'd get a second Prius.
Yeah.
I would get a second Prius.
Yeah.
You're right, but I wouldn't get rid of my first one,
No,
though,
of course
she's
not.
been
You'd
way
shop
too good
at
to me.
regular Nordstrom.
Right.
You wouldn't have the
Right,
rack
upgrade.
amendment anymore.
And then, of course, there's award bonuses, too. The 26-year-old gets to keep his number 22. But just to go back in time, in 1989, Kirby Puckett was the highest paid player. 3 years, $9 million. Dan.
Well, let's remember that, you know, we're all shaking our head. The numbers are beyond our comprehension, obviously. There's a lot of money in sports. Fan has learned. The fan. Well,
Fox 9 has learned.
That's the radio in me. Fox
Yes.
9 has learned.
Yes.
And look, baseball, relatively speaking, has economic issues, one could say more challenges, certainly than football doesn't every other sport. But there's money out there, okay? This doesn't seem logical to me, even by large market standards, because no single baseball player can make as much difference as, for example, a single basketball player. I even think a single quarterback.
Yep.
But I will also add, my one hesitation in mocking this and ridiculing it hands to the Twins apologists, to the folks, the ball guys who are constantly making excuses for the Twins. They have new ammo. See? How can you compete in this kind of situation, this kind of market? You guys get mad at the Twins for being too cheap. Well, here's an example. How can they compete with this? No one amongst us who challenge this Twins organization on this issue think they have to challenge or that they have to match this kind of absurd money. That's not realistic. But there's a middle ground in there that this team kind of played around with for like a year.
Yep.
And now they're withdrawing from that, and now new ownership, I hope, will at least show the interest of not being terrified by what this deal seems to represent.
30.
I do think, though, baseball's got an issue where everything is migrating to the coasts now, and everything is migrating to the big cities and the big markets, right? Everybody's out east, or they're out west with one of the Los Angeles teams, or they're in Philly. Your Cubs every once in a while jump in, right? They've done some stuff. We obviously know Boston and New York are going to spend. But there's at least, 7, 8 teams that have no interest in even doing what the Twins are doing, right? And being middle of the pack to, middle third of whatever the payroll ramifications are. There's like 8 or 9 teams that have no interest in spending to the floor because there's no cap, but there's no floor, right? And I don't know how that is.
Well, that's
good.
true regardless of this kind of deal.
For sure,
Right.
but I think that gap is even widening.
Yeah.
So I guess my point is, what's baseball going to do? I don't know what baseball can do about this because you do, I think, need it to be a national game at some point if you want people to pay attention to it. Or maybe you don't. Maybe everybody's cool with New York and L.A. in the World Series every year.
I want to get to men's basketball real quick. Go for men's basketball. The team's in trouble, ranked last among the Big Ten teams, lower than St. Thomas, which is newer to D1. An embarrassing loss to Indiana this week. A tense locker room, calls on social media to fire Coach Ben Johnson. What needs to change, Justin?
Well, you mentioned the locker room, and they've done that. Every team does that from time to time, right? That's nothing new. The hope is you have something in that locker room that can get you out of it. The Wolves just did it, within the last 2 weeks? They had enough to kind of get them out of it and right the ship. My worry is what's the answer for this particular season? They've had injuries that we've talked about. One of the players, Mike Mitchell, is back. Hopefully this break for finals and then Christmas gives him some more time to get healthy because they obviously need him. But they need some type of spark to kind of get people back interested in this team. They had a nice bounce-back season a year ago that they thought they were going to be able to build off of. Then a bunch of players left, including one to the NBA, and they clearly, at least to this point, haven't backfilled that. And I don't know if it's going to get any better. And as a guy who grew up going to Clem Haskins basketball camp, Dan, and do remember when Gopher basketball was a huge, relevant piece of the sports town, I'm very concerned that they're not going to get the spark this season, and I don't know what happens after that.
Ben Johnson, I think, was stuck because what he concentrated on after the game was effort, because he can't really say the other thing, which is, well, maybe it's not just effort. There's just not enough here at all. Wolves have talent.
Right.
The Gopher talent at this level I just don't think there's anywhere near enough of it there. And it pains me to say this as a basketball guy and a guy who covered a lot of games at a frenetic, passionate barn They should move their home games to Ritter Arena. Seriously, it's an embarrassment to see how empty that place is, what lack of energy is in that building. So just move it to Ritter and it'll look like they're selling
Enough said. Holiday cards are next. Can't wait to read them. We each get one.
Holiday cards.
But we have so
it's
many.
that time again?
Unfortunately, we can't read them all. Sadly.
Let's go ahead. Let's do a whole show on it.
We could, though. That would be fun. We
Well.
could fill at least an hour with them. Instead of the lightning round, we're going to share some holiday cards that we've been getting into the Fox 9 newsroom for Enough Said. The first one is from Sandy Winsberger from St. Michael. Santa asked me if you're good this year, and I said, heck no. No. The inside says you are awesome, just like every other year. Lori, Dan, Justin, I look forward to watching this neat show, in quotation marks, every Friday night. Lori, keep these guys in line. Happy face, Sandy. Happy New Year. Dan?
Very nice.
You get that a lot to keep us in line. I don't think you have it that tough.
No,
don't have it down,
you really
especially
don't.
not in tonight's show.
People, they're just sucking up to you.
Yeah.
I've got a card, a lovely cup, two cards really, from Tim and Becky Karen of Invergrove Heights. In fact, they sent this card, and then for the holiday period, or idea, motif, oh, there it is. It's on the screen. I thought I was having to hold it up. Listen to this message. Happy holidays, Lori, Justin, and Dan. We love your show, Enough Said. Look forward to watching it every week. Love your openness and honesty about Minnesota sports and the political climate.
Everybody loves your honesty.
You know what? It occurs to me, we keep couples together.
We
is
do.
What we do. Guardsy, how about you? What do you
Those who Enough Said together, stay
They
together.
stay together.
Sure?
That's-
I mean, we're
Our
still
divorce
together.
rate is
Very
the
low.
lowest of any major metropolitan TV market program.
We change
Easily.
lives. Mine's from Carmela in Golden Valley, and yep, there it is. Now, she wrote on the card that you see on the screen, she told us each one of these birdies who was who. So Lori was lower left. You were on the top, Dan, of course, the
naturally.
headliner.
Naturally.
And then I was just kind of buried on the bottom there. But she writes, I really do enjoy your show, and if I can't watch live, I have it recorded. I'd say more, but enough said.
There it is.
Awesome. Thank you, Carmela.
So we're
They keep coming in, right, Lori?
They are. We have to sign more after the show
Okay.
because they keep coming in. So if you want to send yours and get a special Enough Said,
I forgot
one
about my outfit.
signed by us and have an actual physical copy of Justin in that outfit, you can send them to 11358 Viking Drive in Eden Prairie. Make sure you put Enough Said. But if you don't want an Enough Said one, there's also an AM version if you love the morning show, PM version.
We don't care about them.
The Jason
How about
show
forget that.
and the weekend.
Forget that. They don't promote us. Why should we promote them?
Good point.
How about e-cards, Lori?
We just like the physical. Did you know that we've gotten more than 3,000 into the Fox 9 newsroom?
That's tremendous.
heard
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
That's
Okay.
half of them are
Happy
Enough
holidays.
Said.
Send them in.